Apple at 7 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order and stand for the pledge, if you please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Amendments to the agenda.
I have one. I'd like to add, talk about a cemetery lot at Cedar Grove.
New business.
New business.
Can I have a second? Is that all of it? That all the amendments?
I second that.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
So that will be under new business. Okay. Approval of the minutes of August 9th.
So moved.
Second.
Additions, deletions, corrections?
That's pretty good.
I will abstain. All those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Five minutes for public comment. John?
I know you're working with our call manager, and it's all problem, that's on Washington, side of it, it's gonna get cleaned up.
This is all concerning health officer stuff?
Yes.
Okay.
And help, done to get cleaned up. And 6th Street, there is a work order on that, and we have to do it. That's all I got.
Okay.
That's the garbage you're talking about on Grape Street, right?
The whole lot.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Hi, Jim.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm here again on behalf of the Fairhaven Taxpayers United, and I'm here as a spokesperson in response to comments that were made at the July 26, 2022 meeting by Mr. Greenow and Mr. Brown, inquiring as to the status of grants. What is, more or less, can we get a hold on what's going on with the grants? And from what was mentioned at that meeting, the consensus of the board was that Mr. Gunter needs to report, give some type of statement as to what the status is for the grants. What has been going on with Fairhaven Taxpayers United is obviously, personalities and emotions aside, there's great sentiment against several of these projects, and it is based on sound reasoning. It's not just emotion, hysterics, or personalities. So further in response to the inquiry by the board, or members of the board, there has been a forensic review of certain documents within the files of Mr. Gunter's office. These documents are public documents, readily available to any member of the public, and also are, more importantly and most importantly, readily available for the review of the select board. Just inquire and they're at your disposal to peruse. I'd like to read into the record for the information of the board, and I'm going to give you handouts, but also on the record for permanency, what has been discovered thus far in this review.
Can I ask who did this review?
I looked at the documents in Mr. Gunter's office.
And that's considered a forensic review? That's a stretch at best.
I reviewed the documents and it was for a forensic purpose.
Right, okay.
I never said I was a licensed forensic accountant. I said I did a forensic review. I reviewed documents for a forensic purpose.
I'm skeptical, but go ahead.
I'll provide you so that you'll be able to see the objective documents, and they're right next door for anyone's perusal and our review. Grant review and contract to invoice review. Whereas Mr. J. Brown and Mr. Richard Greenow expressed questions at the July 26, 2022 meeting as to the status of the grants, a forensic review of the files for each of the following was initiated. For Park and Ride, the downtown sidewalk town hall renovation, downtown sidewalk and the town hall renovation. The main focus was the town hall, and further review was planned. These are public knowledge, and a review by the members of the select board is warranted, so to be informed prior to voting on motions concerning these projects. The first one, which was a scant review, was for the sidewalk grant. This project has been under consideration for quite a while, and has cost tens of thousands of dollars already with behind-the-scenes studies and engineers. The select board needs to be aware that there is an agreement signed on March 22nd, 2022 by the select board, agreeing to pay Rutland Regional Planning Commission an average of $83.99 per hour for their services, and up to $45,000 for their services. This project is overextended and exhausting the Streets and Sidewalk Reserve Fund. The agreement is enclosed for verifying this statement. With respect to the municipal building, as above, this project has been in the works for quite a while. As originally planned, the entire upstairs would be converted into a community center. There'd be an elevator, ADA bathrooms, heating system, fire suppression, and more. The cost of this proposal has dramatically increased, and the components of the project have decreased. As of now, the proposal is to install the elevator, ADA bathrooms on the second floor, and perhaps a little bit more. Mr. Gunter has pledged, and the board has agreed to, $100,000 of the municipal building reserve fund for this project. That would have left $3,000 in the municipal reserve fund. These funds have been pledged if they haven't already been spent. Enclosed are the invoices, objective invoices, that are enclosed from VMS contractors and NBF architects for work performed this spring, 2022, for this work out here, and the boards upstairs for the bathrooms. On July 18th, 2022, Joe Gunter signed a paper with VMS Construction that, as of now, $166,964.39 has been paid for the work thus far. NBF Architects has been paid $41,264.32 as of March 9th, 2022. This project is exhausting the town reserves, and in fact, at the December 14th, 2021 Select Board meeting, Mr. Travers advocated using an additional $80,000 of COVID funds for this project. No one in this meeting you can listen to online, go to YouTube or Peg TV. No one at that meeting from the board questioned what the contract was for. It was urgently needed, according to Mr. Gunter, that it had to be signed. How much the contract was for, and what was the town going to get. Mr. Gunter stated that in this meeting of December 14th, 2021, that to look at the reserve funds is scary. The reason that he states that is because that money has been expended already and pledged. The answer is why Mr. Gunter needed to urgently sign that contract with VMS and did so on January 18th, 2022, is that he signed that because it was set forth by the contractor in November. On January 18th, Mr. Gunter indebted this town to a contract of $618,610. Yes, part of that is coming from grants, but also what has to be considered, and I agree, Mr. Green, a full accounting needs to be supplemented to the board and to the taxpayers. How much of that money has already been expended behind the scenes, studies, architects, and engineers? The elevator alone cost is $82,000. It's very coincidental, and this is where I'm not sure, but it's very coincidental that a urgent need of $80,000 in December, and on January the contract was signed. The elevator is $80,000. I would doubt, and I am not sure, this is pure skepticism, but I am
Skepticism is probably the right word.
But I would doubt
Speculation would be the word.
speculation that VMS would purchase an $80,000 contract unless there were dollar bills behind it. Mr. Gunter has begun a project, the cost of which exceeds the funds available. He has now requested a $250,000 grant from Congressman Welch's office, which would require more taxpayer funds as a grant match. This would put the project well above $600,000. It would be close to $800,000, and as Mr. Gunter states, this can all be verified by looking at the PEG, January 11th, 2022, at approximately 1 hour and 20 minutes. Mr. Gunter states that the bells and whistles of the project are gone, and another grant he requested was denied, and the town is 0 for 2 on grants. The town has been overextended, and the town hall has been ripped apart for nothing. This project needs to be abandoned, the elevator returned, to get some money back to either give it back to COVID or put it back in the reserve funds. These are just a sampling of the documents within Mr. Gunter's files, and I would hope you would verify the contents of this letter, the actual documents attached. This is very serious that the reserve funds, which have taken time to build, are being destroyed if they haven't been already. Further, with respect to the salt shed, there is $82,000 earmarked for this project. These grants should be returned, whatever's left of them, and the remaining money should be used without state interference. Let the board decide with local contractors to finish the project of the salt shed, which is a lot less than $700,000. Also, with respect to taxpayers' needs.
Are you saying that we are going to spend $700,000? Or
No, I'm
have
saying-
you paid attention
I know.
enough to understand that we are not going to do something
I
like that?
understand that. I
Then
said-
why the innuendo?
No, it's not.
I'm sick of,
That's
I'm
not
sick
what I
of
said.
what you're saying. This is
That's-
all innuendo. Why
That's
don't
not
you
what I
get to
said.
the point?
That's not what I said.
Why don't you get to the point?
I
Because
said-
I've had it.
Okay,
You know what we should do?
my turn.
We should, you know what would be helpful for the taxpayers of the town? Is the people that owed us taxes paid them.
So,
Wouldn't that be nice?
with respect to finishing this.
Wouldn't that be nice?
And I will be done.
Good.
That.
And my only comment, I don't mean to interrupt, but I'm saying, we have 5 minutes for public comment. We have a lot of things to do, so if you would please
2 minutes left.
You got 2
get
minutes.
us there, because we're gonna bring it to an end if you don't get your
You
point.
misquoted me. I said fixing
Go
it
ahead.
locally is less than 700. I did not say the town was going to expend that.
You made that innuendo, and
With respect
it's
to-
all innuendo.
With respect to taxpayer needs, Mr. Gunter states there's no money for picnic tables, no money to paint the park fence, gives the itty-bitty committee less than $100, and states there's no money for small prizes for the children of the playground, yet has wasted hundreds of thousands of dollars. Mr. Gunter has totally ignored the request of the American Legion to refurbish the cannon with COVID funds. It is the Fairhaven Taxpayers United are aware of all of this and request the board to remove Mr. Gunter from the position of town manager for just cause. And I'd like to just present these in a
I would like to say something here. Number one, I do not want you using my name in your propaganda. I haven't ever agreed on anything you're doing, or I will not agree on what you're doing, and I think what you're doing is wrong. And furthermore, I'd like to know roughly what we spent in legal fees in the last 7 years for whatever.
Frivolous lawsuit.
Yes.
Frivolous lawsuits.
Frivolous lawsuits.
You don't wanna
That's
pay
what
your
you ought to
taxes.
look up and let us know how much the town has spent on that.
Supposedly you're looking out for the taxpayers united, you don't pay your own taxes.
That's
Thank
it,
you.
thank you. Next.
Do I get,
Oh, you wanna- Sure.
Could you read this for me? I've already got it.
We've got, we will answer this, but not tonight. I'd like to, but I'm a little angry, so I probably will say something I shouldn't. I've already said something that I shouldn't, so. People have a right to have their opinion. We'll move on.
Anyone else for 5 minutes?
I see no one else for public comment. If it's all right with the department heads and everybody else, I think we could probably do old business, the herbicide letter, and let a lot of people go home earlier. If that's all right with the board.
Works well for
Just-
me,
we're
for
just-
most of the people, I think.
We're
it
just
is.
jumping a little bit, but that's all right. We have a request from Mr. Waterhouse, and we're on the board, we're on the agenda, so I guess if you want to go ahead and say what you want to say, and we'll go from there.
That's great. I don't see any eagles on anybody's shoulders. Who's the head monkey muck here?
Oh,
Okay.
I guess that's me.
The guy with the gavel.
The only reason I ask is I want to make sure I give you a color copy of my presentation.
See if we can get something going here.
Before we get started,
It's, right,
could I just ask a quick question? Where do you get your information for this herbicide, and who's telling you that it's not gonna hurt the lake? Are you getting it from the chemical company?
I want to start off with my presentation. I don't need the cross-examination from a board.
I asked a
member
simple
at
question.
this
Well,
point.
let him go ahead and you can ask that question.
Personally, if anyone's curious to talk about this, I'd rather be sticking pins in my eyes this evening than being here to talk about this topic. But that's the way it is. There has been a lot of controversy, that's for sure, about this particular piece. And I'm sorry,
Thank you.
the comment threw me off pace here a little bit. I want to make sure that people, at least on the board, can take a look at some photos here and copies of the presentation.
Could I get a copy? No, you keep that one.
So
Could I get a copy?
So just to, I'm just going to read this. It was my original, it was my intent to attend. I'm sorry. It was not my intent to come here tonight at all. That was not my intent whatsoever. My whole thing was a conversation with the town manager just to try to find out information about a letter that was sent by the board to the DEC and to the A&R. That was my whole purpose, trying to find background as to what went on and why. So that was really, and the whole issue that came up was talking about limited chemical treatment for Eurasian milfoil in Lake Bonzine. So that was the topic, all right? The reason I've got photos in here, I was just going to ask you, do you know any of these guys? One on the far left, for example. Probably not. I don't know if you're old enough, at least in terms of that, but that first picture, that's my grandmother and my grandfather. Right? That was before the Second World War. That's a photo that was taken right up on our property, up on top of the hill. What about the next guy? We're getting closer now. Any idea about who he is? No? Now that's my dad. That's Lindsay Waterhouse Sr. He was a member of the 77th Infantry Group, Bronze Star awardee, and Purple Heart as well. Was at the liberation of the Philippines. That's basically was his mode. And what about the third guy there? What's the other photo? Anyone know?
I kind of got you figured out.
Okay, all right, you think? So that happens to be me, all right? So anyways, I just wanted to kind of let everybody know that I'm a real shy guy, and sometimes people think I'm stuck up. Sometimes people call me wealthy. I'm truly not. And I try to stay out of the public eye as much as I possibly can. But when passions start to flare, and if you have an opinion about something, everybody should stand up for what that opinion is and be able to make their thoughts known. So in full disclosure, to everybody that's here and for the board that's interested in this, I am a new member of the Lake Bombazine Association. I was asked also to become a board member, and I accepted that position with the board.
So are you here representing the Lake Bombazine Association?
I am also representing the board as
I just
myself.
want to make sure.
Absolutely. Yep.
So you're a representative, and was this agenda item wasn't for debate about whether?
Not at all.
Okay,
I'm
so I'm
just
still
here to-
trying to understand
No.
what the purpose.
No, there's no debate. I'm just here to clarify an issue.
Okay.
I'm going to give you a copy of a letter that we put together, and I hope that will pretty much end it. If you want me to come back, that's the point. So,
Not really.
so anyways, I don't own property on the lake. I'm a town of Fairhaven taxpayer. I am fully retired. I get no funds for my participation. I am just working for a charitable organization that for over 60 years has done some great work in terms of the lake and doing a lot of things for the social environment as well. I have a degree in environmental engineering and bioenvironmental engineering. I went through the Air Force School of the Air Force Institute of Technology, and I threw some experience in here as well. I was actually on the site of the Exxon Valdez oil spill. I have worked as a project manager for $1 million of environmental restoration work for the U.S. Air Force. And I have a letter from Howard Dean because I implemented one of the first environmental management systems in the state of Vermont for the Agency of Buildings and General Services. So in summary to that is, I know a little bit about toxicology, I know a little bit about water quality, and I guarantee you I can read a material safety data sheet and know something about a risk assessment and toxicology. So I'm speaking from knowledge. I'm not speaking because I don't know anything about this. This isn't opinion. I'm trying to give you as much information as I can. So that's my full disclosure piece, if you will. So here's a copy of the letter that we have sent out. This one is specifically for the town manager. And I'm sorry, I was running out of ink on the printer, so I can only do so many, right? So we'll give you a copy. And this is the main reason I'm here tonight, is basically I want to read the letter to you and our position. So, so this again went to DEC, to Mr. Gunter, and to the Agency of Natural Resources. So, dear sir, this letter is provided in response to the Town of Fairhaven, Vermont Select Board letter to Mr. Sam Brazen dated 3/22/2022. This letter was copied to you and the Vermont Agency of Natural Resources. I'm a taxpayer in the Town of Fairhaven and a member of the Lake Bombazine Association Board of Trustees. I have extensive experience and practice in the fields of environmental engineering, bioenvironmental engineering. I also participate in the LBA's Water Quality Committee. This letter is provided as I and /we, the LBA, take exception to Fairhaven Select Board's letter on the following basis. First of all, the oversight of properties and town positions regarding Lake Bomazene fall under the jurisdiction of the town of Castleton, Vermont Select Board. We feel the letter as provided is meaningless and without merit. And the reason that I say that is there was nothing that I'm aware of where the town noticed or contacted the LBA or provided a public discussion so that other people could come and attend that meeting and voice their opinions, pro or con. Referencing the agenda and minutes of the Fairhaven Select Board March meetings where this topic was addressed, there was no formal warning or notice provided on the topic that would have allowed open discussion on the topic for the town citizenry to comment. The LBA, as an advocate or any other group acting as an opponent, was not offered to represent why they were for or against the issue. And lastly, according to the minutes, this particular topic was randomly brought forward by a single member of the Fairhaven Select Board. At least that's how I read the minutes, and the letter drafted by the town manager. There's no information offered regarding the basis of their decision, and no opportunity offered to the LBA to provide why we, the LBA, support the proposed permit. I'm sorry, I left out one of the key points. Lake Bomazene is a water of the state of Vermont, and therefore any town, with the exception of Castleton, which is a municipality incorporating the lake, would have similar right to randomly select to take any similar action by any and all associations within the state, whether they're an advocate or an opponent. You're just another town. So if Bennington could write an opinion, all the way up north, they could write an opinion on this. The LBA could ask for that opinion. And so anyways, I just want to make that clear.
But the water from Lake Bomazene comes through the town of Fairhaven.
Well,
So any herbicides that you put in that lake is going to come through the town of Fairhaven, and it's going to come into our rivers here. And then it's going to go into Lake Champlain.
I don't want to get into the technical pieces, all right? I'm going to answer your question though, all right? My comment is this. Have you ever walked down the Castleton or Pulteney rivers?
Yes, I have. I've lived here all my life.
Great.
Probably longer than you have.
Well, I don't disagree with you. Are you trying to challenge me on
No,
that
I'm
issue?
not challenging you,
You
but I'm
sound
telling
angry,
you.
and I don't understand why.
Because I think what you're doing is wrong. And right now, I'm going to make a motion that this board leaves the letter that we wrote to the state intact, the way it was written, and send it back with no changes.
I'll second the motion for discussion.
And I'm not advocating that you take the letter back. I'm not.
No,
But and I want to answer the question though. And the comment is this: the reason I asked that question is, walk along those banks. What do you find around most of the banks out there? What do you see?
Same thing you see around Lake Bomazene.
Cornfields?
No, because you
No.
can't. No, because they can't. The state has stopped anybody from getting anywhere near a river.
All you have to do is drive down 22A, head for Pulteney.
That's in New York State, sir. That's in New York State.
the,
And that water from Lake Bomazene does
I'm
not
sorry,
go.
it's not on our side. Okay? And I'm not here to argue. That's not my.
right,
that's
right,
not what I'm
and
trying
the
to do.
debating, the debating part, I understand, and I appreciate the fact, because we wrote a letter that I signed, that went to the Lake Bomazene Association. We did it back in March.
After the decision was
And-
made.
We did it back in March. This is the first, I'm just showing you an observation. I'm saying, here I am sitting in the end of August. I'm going, okay, been a while, but I'm thankful. I'm saying, we sent a letter and it's an acknowledgement that they got the letter. And how you feel, I'm not trying to tell you how to feel any more than you would tell me how to feel on this one here. So on that one right there, I sit back, and the only thing that we have, and we have a right as a select board to say, hey, look, and that's what we did. The letter that we sent basically said that, hey, we really, we don't go on with the fact that we think it's a good idea to put chemicals in there. We think that a little more study should be done, something to that effect. I'm paraphrasing a little bit here.
Well,
So when we sent that out, again, it was in full disclosure so that the Lake Ballazine Association would know exactly how we feel. I did not see the taxpayers of Fairhaven raise up in arms saying, you didn't give us a chance. As a matter of fact, it was the biggest non-event that I'd seen in quite a while. So, but that said, I seconded your motion.
We got a motion second, but I'll let you finish if you want.
well, thanks.
I'll mention.
What I'm trying to get to is, it's corn. It's corn all along. I mean, just drive drive across Old Route 4 and look at the cornfields. 90% of Vermont corn for feedstock is glyphosate corn. Where do you think the majority of herbicides going into those rivers that I love to trout fish just like everybody else is coming from? You think it's going to be from the lake for selected applications? The problem is that the Department of Agriculture regulates that. It's not the DEC. And again, I don't want to go into too much detail, but I just want to be clear that if we were to sample those rivers, you would find atrazine, glyphosate, etc. as a result of corn, because we obliterate every weed that's in a cornfield. I've had long discussions with Jeff Sheldon about this. I know what's going on up in the northern part of the state on Bombazine. So I just want to make it clear, that's my answer. There are much worse situations, and this is a targeted situation with the intent to look only at one weed specific. So anyways, that's kind of where that comes from. So when we talk about, and I just want to talk a little bit about integrity as well. Now you talked about the board has a right. I am not a legal scholar whatsoever. But I would propose to you, someone's got to bring that up. Someone has to have an initiative to make that an issue. The only thing I saw that said that this was an issue was Bob Richards bringing it up as a discussion and the immediate board approving a letter that went out.
No.
And
That's not the way it works.
okay, well then that's what I'm
Let me
here
give
to find
you
out.
the structural version of what we do, just so we don't get into problems like that. We have, if you look at the agenda for tonight, there's a part 10 is board roundtable. So people can bring things up that is a concern of an individual selectman.
Okay.
So that was my individual concern. That was one of the things I brought up that meeting, whatever meeting that was, the 10th or whatever that was. So that we don't get in trouble with anything, with anyone or anything in this kind of context. We don't do any votes on that. What we did at that meeting was consensus of the board to have the town manager draft a letter. Draft is an important word. And then we considered it the next meeting. It is on the agenda for the next meeting. Sorry, I had it here someplace. Anyways, it was on the next meeting, it was on the agenda for the next meeting, for anyone to see. At that point, we read the draft letter and then we made a motion to move on that, the second meeting. So there was no subterfuge, there was no pushing it through by one member. It was totally and absolutely legitimate and legal and above board.
Well, it was the board's decision though, right?
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, have you ever been wrong before?
Probably have
I
been
can't
and
think of any
probably
time.
will again, but I can tell you, you make it sound like we sat back and just made
No.
a flip decision. I can tell you, I personally went to meetings and heard both sides. So after hearing both sides, I came up with my determination of whether I wanted to sign the letter that we were talking about. So there was some thought that went into it.
Absolutely.
And that's why when the motion's made that the letter stands, I seconded it. And I think we can beat this
Yeah,
further if you want, but I've heard all I want and have no intention of changing my
The main
opinion.
reason that I'm also here is I am concerned about conflict of interest, and I am concerned about what goes on here. Because one of the reasons that I question this letter is the opposition, whenever this comes up as a discussion, beats us over the head that 3 towns have put letters out addressing this as not a supportive issue. And with some of the data and some of the information that we receive, we don't know whether it's correct or not. So I looked into this for the board to try to resolve that piece. But what I'm really concerned about is the animosity and that what goes on within the inside of the board, because what you have here is a color shot of the same day I spoke to Joe. I see this sent by 2 friends of mine with that posting. Now, I don't know who Ann is. I don't know her from Adam, all right? But how she got the information that I had asked the question to the board on the same day that I asked it, and the other side suddenly is like saying, we're gonna have this big meeting, and Lindsay Waterhouse, someone using my name, which I think this gentleman took offense to with somebody else, and put it telling, basically, if you read that note, telling me what I'm gonna do at this meeting. I don't have the ability, I'm blocked from this information. I can't go there, I can't comment. I can't even see a copy of that. If it wasn't for somebody that was concerned about who I am, I wouldn't have ever have known. And so, all I'm talking about is, all that military time, you know, ethics and fairness and integrity is important. Facts matter and words matter, all right? And if not, people get angry. And what ends up happening is the board is in a minority situation, and we get all the anger. You have no idea. I mean, some of the comments I wouldn't even tell my wife about. Thank goodness I wouldn't tell my wife about it. But anyways, that's my concern. So, and like I said, as stated initially to the town manager, I had and have no intent on addressing the LBA's justification for supporting the permit tonight. That was not my intent whatsoever. I have prepared materials. And one of my biggest concerns is there was no representation. You did not notice the LBA of a decision from this board to have at least somebody come and be present if they wanted to be here. I'm not guaranteeing that they would have. I was not a member at that point in time. If this were to come up again, someone were to notify me, I would be here, all right? And I would present information so that the board has more knowledge and anyone else attending the meeting has more knowledge to make a better informed decision. And that's all I'm for. Again, I've sat on courts-martials in the military. Everyone has a right to their day in court, okay? And that's all I'm asking here. And that's why we wrote the counter letter, because we honestly don't think, I don't think that you're knowledgeable enough about the issues, and I know what is coming from the other side, and a lot of that is flat, incorrect, and inappropriate, and it shouldn't be out there. I'm just trying to be a good citizen and let folks know this is a concern I have.
So can I go back and ask you my question from before and have you answer it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Where are you getting your information from? Is it from the chemical company?
No,
Where is
it's
it
not.
coming from? Where is it coming? I've read this whole thing from the state of Vermont. Fish and Game Wildlife. And they put so many things in here that you could do differently and not put any poison in that lake. All of us use that lake. Everybody in Fairhaven uses that lake. And you keep saying that you weren't notified. Are you a citizen in town?
Yes, I am.
All right. This agenda is publicized in 4 different places. It's publicized, all you had to do is read it.
The town of Castleton, when this came up as an issue, notified everyone and gave the LBA an opportunity to come and present information. The other side was represented as well.
We have a motion on the board. I'd like to call the motion.
And I think we're beating this right to death. I want to thank you for your service, and I don't agree with everything you're saying, but it doesn't mean I don't respect the fact that you have a right to say it.
Of course I do.
You do, absolutely.
Right.
And but we could probably go on, and I'm not the only one sitting, and we'd probably
I'm
be at
not
the same,
intending to go on and on.
and we'd be the same place, here.
The question has been called. I will say one more thing again. We did not illegally send this letter. It was well warned and it was legal. So the B and C of your letter is not appropriate or certainly not true.
Well, I disagree with you on that.
Well, that's okay. We're not going to agree.
I agree.
All right.
I don't think that the LBA was properly notified, and I don't think that interested parties were able to be represented during that time frame of the decision that was made, even if it didn't go towards the LBA side. All right, that's my point.
Okay.
If they got a letter from us, why did it take so long for somebody to respond to it? It's almost 4 months. Why didn't somebody respond when the letter was sent to you?
We don't want to go and look at response times from the board and activities. I will
That's
tell
what you just did.
You know,
Well, the question's been called. I will take that vote. So, does everyone understand what the motion was? It was a while ago.
The motion,
The
as I
motion
understand it,
is to
as I
keep the
understand
letter
it,
and
to
not
keep the
rescind
letter
it,
and not rescind it.
Not rescind the letter.
That's correct, I understand the motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? That's where we're at, Mr. Waterhouse.
thank you very much.
Thanks.
And I want to say, thank you for giving me the time tonight. And secondly, I really hope, I'm happy to come back and do a full-blown presentation, and I will answer where the information comes from, and I would be happy to talk about those issues. So if you change your minds, give me a yell.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks for
much.
coming.
Okay, we're gonna back up now. Department head reports. Thanks for coming, folks.
Something we said?
You're up, I guess. I'm not seeing a lot of other department heads here.
Unfortunately, Mike has not been able to come in and paving just yet. We did have one day last week. He was hoping to squeeze a crew in to get 4th Street done for us. With the way the weather was and his crews were working, he was really hoping. He called me late that night, so I forget what the date was, late the night before, and said the weather was sometimes encroaching harder and harder, and they weren't going to they weren't even going to try it in the morning. Of course, rain until 5 o'clock that afternoon. So he was trying really hard to help us to make sure we beat the school opening. Finally got a hold of him again today to see where we're at. He said he's not going to make it this week either. So he's trying to get a crew together to come back up to do all of the work. So all of the work would be the finishing of the paving on 4th, Furnace, hit up Scotch Hill, South Main Street where it's all broke up there. We've talked with him about what their best recommendation is, and in our input is we're going to we're going to patch over that broke up section. When we dug it up earlier this spring, as Mr. Reno can attest, the material that's there, there's nothing wrong with the material that's there. Best guess we have is water got in there, got trapped, and just couldn't go because of the way the spring fell on us this year. So we're looking at some other things to help alleviate any water issues down there in the future. But for now, the best we're going to get is a smooth coat of asphalt over that. And then the rest of time and efforts will be spent on Scotch Hill, trying to get those worst sections tidied up for winter time so we don't totally lose that road and make it that much better passable. So the guys been up on 4th and Furnace as well, making sure those manholes were put to grade. So right now they're at, the manholes are raised to just below or just at that shim coat where it is now. When the pavers comes to town, all of those manholes, sewer manholes, water valves will get raised another inch to accommodate for the inch. It's going to be about 1.25 inches finish coat that's going to go across there and compact to just above 1 inch. So all those manholes will sit just about perfect. So Part of that, with that raising with that last extension ring, gives us a little bit of forgiveness that if one's off, we have some room to move that manhole cover up and down by either removing the ring entirely, just putting the manhole back where it is and shooting it some other way, or the best thing that we like from it, it gives us the opportunity if one of those sewer manholes rises up in the winter time and a plow pitches that ring, it takes that 1-inch ring off. It doesn't take the whole casting off and ripping up 6-8 inches of road with it. So it gives us an opportunity to fix it very fast. With that, we've been out, got some ditching done. The guys have been up on Sheldon Road getting that straightened out. They actually finished up some of that today. Hopefully the rain will just come down nice and steady and set the seed in so it'll go good. Got some grading done down on Taconic. A few days of cutting back some more brush, cleaning up from where the mower made a bit of a mess here or there where stuff was laying on the side of the road. There's still more out there. It's something that if it was a safety issue, we're taking care of it, but it's more aesthetics and just making sure it's all cleaned up as we have the time. But a little bit of sign work here and there on various different roads. The next week or two will be continuation of getting ready for more pavement, so they'll be up on Scotch Hill Road doing some of the ditching up on the section that we'll be paving and trying to get that stuff set up there. Brush cutting is still getting pushed on with the parsons being cut back or being pushed back with that mower. We can get into those ditch lines and not have to worry about the guys hopefully getting into that stuff. Paving gets here, we'll be busy with that, and then backing up the paving on Scotch Hill and finishing Swamp Road when we get back to it. First 2 weeks of September, crack sealing machine is scheduled to be here. So we're renting the crack seal machine and the rubber, so well, not renting the rubber, we bought the rubber, we're renting the machine, so we can go crack seal on our own. We're at about $5,000 for 2 weeks for that machine's gonna be here. A crew to come in for 1 day is running $5,000. We're hoping that over those 2 weeks, we'll put in way more crack seal than a crew will be able to do in a day. In that 1 day, if we had a professional crew in, so great. For hired crew in. Water department is down to less than a handful, I believe, water meters, including one. We're at one water meter.
And we have them all in? That's a great job.
There's only one left to do.
There's a couple that are not, but that's due to planning purpose. A couple of those are the new bigger meters that we have just installed within the last 5 years. It costs a lot of money. They're brand new within the last 5 years, so we're going to slowly work them into the budget to replace them. So most of them are commercial facilities that we have ready access to read them anyway. But once we get the funding pushed through the next couple budget cycles, those meters will be swapped out as well. We have been selling a bit of water to the 22A project. Joe and I have talked in discussion again today about how we can tighten up actually doing that at a more reasonable effort for us and make it easier on us. So right now, what we try to do is be there every time somebody wants water to make sure we're seeing how much they take. Well, the truck takes this much. Well, if it's half full, we don't know actually how much it takes. So most everybody's been fair with, we're going to charge you for a full load because we don't know what you're taking. You really don't know what you're taking. You're telling us, but honesty is the best policy. We are looking into getting a meter that we can put on the hydrant. So when somebody calls for wanting to fill their tankers or something like that, we can hook that meter on that hydrant. I have a little bit of my own flare put on it to try and make it so it can't pull as much water as fast as the hydrant can flow just willy-nilly. Because the town as a whole does not want those tankers filling up at 500 gallons a minute and having somebody shut a valve off on that tanker and sending that shock wave through the system. So I'm trying to engineer up a way to make it so it doesn't flow as much water so fast so they can hammer our system and break something. So, sewer plant. If you have not been down, we're trying to schedule for the 6th. So the next meeting. We'll hopefully have a walkthrough. We were looking to do it tonight, but the engineering firm was unable to make it. So far, I haven't heard no on the 6th, so sounds like that's what we're going to be down there. If you want to go down there for more in-depth, we'll be down there. We're going to try for about an hour that night. You will not get everything out of what you can out of that plant. We're going to give you a down and dirty of where all the money went, where it's still going right at the moment, and how it's affected the process overall down there. So there's a few minor punch list things on the original portion of the contract. The last biggest piece is still that garage and chemical feed room. We're making good progress on that. That's the last big chunk of this before we get into warranty period for the whole project and going from there. They're making good progress. The biggest holdup is delivery of mechanical stuff. So the furnaces, or the furnace, the water stuff, the inside stuff, that all that stuff's taking forever these days to get here. So hopefully, we're hoping by the end of October, the majority of that's wrapped up. We want to get those chemicals. Right now, they're in a storage container outside, and both the chlorine and the sodium bisulfite dechlorinization are very reactive to temperature. They don't like it when it gets cold. So even 40 degrees is cold to them, and we all know once October hits, 40 is not far from reality. So we want to get them inside where we can control their environment much more. All of it in a nutshell for the moment.
Questions? I have a question. Why are the two trucks down at Rod's foot of the hill? Why are our two trucks down at Rod's at the foot of the hill?
The sludge truck?
There's two trucks down there. There's a 1 ton and a sludge truck.
Yeah, the sludge truck's down there for brake work and injector checkouts. It seems to be running very rich when it sits there for dry balls out. And the 550 was down there for inspection, and the inspection required some ABS work.
Okay.
So they're doing more.
Great job. Why are we paying the mechanic at the garage if we're gonna send our work out?
We don't have a mechanic in this present.
We have a mechanic. It's right in here. It's in the union contract that we're paying for a mechanic.
He's out on medical leave now. So I'm down to 2 full-time staff members at the garage, so we don't have time to do all of that work and accomplish the rest.
What about the deal with the 10-hour days when they're working 9.5 and they were going home early and we're losing a half an hour a day?
Okay, that was my mistake. I know you're addressing Aaron, but that really was my mistake.
He's the superintendent. I wanna know why we're short of a half an hour a day.
I don't know where you're short half an hour.
They went home at 4 o'clock.
6 to 4 o'clock is 10 hours.
Right. What happens to lunch hour?
They have not been taking
Don't
that.
tell me that. They have to take one every day when it's 8 hours. They'll stop at the store 2 or 3 times. Don't tell me they didn't take your half an hour. And it's in the union contract that they have to take that half an hour. So we've been short a half an hour a day of labor for all the guys that are down there working 10-hour days. I want to know where it's going to be made up.
If you want to know the full truth, it's been going on since I've been here, because when I was started here, I asked about whether we were taking lunches anymore. And at that point, the general consensus is that it was a working lunch. The guys just worked. They'd grab something on the way to and from a job site, and they'd keep working.
You know that
They
doesn't
don't take
happen.
their-
That doesn't happen, and you know it. It's
No,
it's a union contract. We have to provide a half an hour. It's in the contract. So we've got shorted a half an hour in these 10-hour days. They've taken advantage of these 10-hour days. I want to go back on to 8-hour days and 5 days a week. It's time. We're not gaining any more work out of them. I'm sorry, but we're not.
Little discussion here, if we can. It's an awful small crew, and they cover a lot of ground. So we gotta take that into consideration.
Not when they stand at the barn from 3:30 on.
Well,
So-
no, they should be working, getting ready for the next day or something. Yes, I agree with that, but, you know, we have a very small crew, and we expect a lot out of them.
Just, no, I expect 8 hours of work.
Well,
And I don't think that's asking too much.
I do
We-
within reason,
We
yes.
pay for 8 hours of work.
Just for discussion's point, please remember that they're entitled by the statute and the contract for 2 15-minute break periods in their pay period. They're paid,
They took they stopped the afternoon one and they added it to the morning.
they're,
So that's a half an hour in the morning and a half an hour at lunch. I'm saying the 10-hour days, they were only here 9.5 hours.
they're here 10 hours.
10 hours, but they didn't work. We lost a half an hour because of their lunchtime. You know, I'm glad that you don't own a business because it'd be bankrupt. I'll tell you right now. This is ridiculous. If they're supposed to be here 10-hour days, that means they're here 10.5 hours. That means they're here until 4:30 in the afternoon.
We don't control the half-hour lunch period.
Don't tell me that. It's in the union contract. It's in the union contract.
Yes, but that's not your
And-
time, sir.
Excuse me.
That's not.
We are paying it. We're the ones that paid, we're the ones that foot the bill.
Not paid for their lunch period, sir. When they punch out and punch back in, or if they don't because they can't leave the job site, 6 to 10 to 4:30 is now 10.5 hours on the record.
Don't tell me that they don't take a lunch break. Don't say that. They can't get through 8 hours without taking a lunch break and stopping at the store 2 or 3 times a day. So they're not working 10 hours and not taking a lunch break. Don't tell me that.
The point's been made, and it would, 10 hours would be 4:30 with a lunch break.
Hours over the day, not
Are they
10 hours.
They are working
Are they
50.
required to sign out at noon?
Supposed to punch out if they're at the,
Hours of going to this from the job site.
if they're on the job site, they can take their lunch hour there, and we're not requiring a punch out, obviously.
For the last 2 weeks now, my apologies, maybe, they are on the clock from 6 to 4:30 to make sure
4:30.
that everybody is getting their 10 hours in. So it's already been addressed.
Getting back to the South Street project there where that compaction was an issue,
Yep.
are we gonna be able to get to that water issue there before next spring, this fall?
The
This-
drainage line.
Well, my concern is if we pave that again and we don't take care of that, we could have the same issue. What's happened is there's a drain pipe that the people put in, but they stopped it just before our catch basin. Apparently the town of Fairhaven told them they could dump into the catch basin, but it never happened.
They didn't go into the catch basin.
They did not. They did not. So all that water comes down, collects in the subsoil, migrates underneath the road in that area. I suspect that's what's happened.
I've spoken with the owner of the pipe.
I know.
And it's in a right of way. We have his authority to connect it ourselves. And there's only been small discussion on whether we do it or we force him to do it, because that's what. So.
I think we should do it, and for our own benefit.
Send the bill.
Just
Bill?
one question here, on Carnarvon, where we have that cutout there, well, the pavers are here, are they gonna pave or are we paving?
Yeah, that's that.
They're gonna pave that as well?
Yes.
Fix that road cut on Carnarvon that's
Once
been
again.
sitting there?
Oh, good.
We pay extra money to do a job we should be doing. Never seen anything like it. Talk about a waste of money.
Thanks, Sean.
Questions?
You're the police today?
I'm police chief today.
Very quickly for the police side, the guys, the department had 2 arrests, 1 embezzlement and some petty larceny. 1 overweight permit, seems late in the season for that, doesn't it? And we're up to 42 sets of fingerprints. The guys are still pulling in at $25 a pop, they're doing well.
That's going to increase too because of all the new people going into the school.
Yeah, they've been coming in.
They've all got to come here to get fingerprints.
Other police departments don't want to do it, so.
Take advantage of it.
Yeah. The chief did get a grant for one of these solar, what do you call them? The speed signs. There's a picture in your packet. There was discussion about putting this sign out on what am I thinking? Not Prospect, out towards Castleton, what's that road?
Capitol
River
Hill?
Street?
Capitol Hill, no, Capitol
Capitol
Hill.
Hill.
Yeah,
Dunton Avenue.
yeah. So apparently people coming out of Castleton, that straightaway gets people going pretty quick, so the chief thought that'd be a good spot to,
Is this a stationary one?
it's stationary, it'll go on a pole.
I saw the pictures of it here, I wasn't sure.
Yeah, these things really work, well, they slow me down,
Yeah, they slow me
so I
down.
guess that's,
Well, the problem is right there, that is a good place to put it, because people don't realize the speed limit drops to 40 miles an hour from down by the bus station. And they don't even realize
And
it.
it drops to 30 as soon
Then
as
it
you
drops
get
to
up the
30
hill.
as soon as you come around the corner, so they don't even realize it.
Yeah, that'll be a good one, that'll be informative.
Too bad we couldn't buy 2 or 3 of these.
40, 30.
Yeah, people get sign blind, they really do.
People don't look at road signs.
No, they get sign blind, they get used to
But
it.
they notice these flashing.
Yes, yes, I
That's
think
what
they're.
Is this one the ones like they got in Woodstock where the lights will flash before the speed?
it'll flash, and I think it'll say thank you when you slow down, which I appreciate. Yeah,
Well,
being pleasant.
like I said, but it draws your attention real quick.
Like Aaron said earlier, congratulations to DPW and the water department. We are down to one water meter at 5 West Street, Miss Duncan, and we have talked to her. The police chief will probably be making contact again. And that's what I have for the police.
My kudos to the water department, they're doing a good job up there.
Any questions for the town manager? Or for, where are you?
I was police right there.
That was police, never mind. Town manager?
Town manager side, to be brief, we did reach out to the folks over the home just behind Stewart's. Those folks did trim back those trees. They didn't cut them down, but they trimmed them back so you got some line of sight there. It was pretty bad. Apple Fest, September 17th this year. There is a rain date of Sunday the 18th, for those of you who are interested. We got a really great quote. There's a young lady that her and her husband live in Fairhaven now, and they're back and forth to Florida, but they want to move up here. And she gave us a really, really good quote on a new website, very professional. So the Economic Development Committee is going to meet with her at the end of this month, and then we'll bring something back to the Board of Selectmen for them to review. But it's very promising.
It even included maintenance of the site, because it's one thing to go in and then who's gonna take care of it? And it's all built into the proposal, which is pretty good.
Nice. Just to keep it on your radar, the budget season does start next month here internally, and then soon after it comes to the board.
What is it? I'm sorry.
Budget season.
Oh, I thought you said blank.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
No emotion is gonna happen there.
No. Audit is still on track. They'll be here Thursday. Playground grand opening. I did show up in my work, not my work clothes, but my actual working clothes, and had a hot dog. It was pretty well attended. They had music, a lot of kids, some good pictures in the newspaper. It's nice. It's clean. I don't know if the folks cleaned it that held the event, or if they're just staying on top of it, but it looks really great. So.
How about our bathroom down there? Is that even being used?
Yeah. Rec uses it. I know the football team, when they're there, they have a key and they'll use it. We do have I think there's one toilet that's in op, but we'll get it fixed. And then, like Aaron said, the manholes on 4th Street are ready, and that paving is hopefully here sooner rather than later. And that is what I have for you today.
When does school start?
31st. Teachers go back, they go back on Friday. Yeah, and the sign over here, I see they put the new sign up for
The flasher.
but the light, it's flashing now, but it's not bright.
We have it disconnected at the moment. It's the IT team from the school is gonna do the programming of it.
Okay, because I saw it the other day, I come by and the light blinked, but it was so faint, you know,
We
you,
put it up and we tried to unplug everything so it wasn't blinking until we had it programmed, but I think the solar panels were just waiting through.
so do they turn that on and off at the school?
I believe it's internally programmed.
Oh, it's programmed for hourly,
Yeah.
the hours that they're in operation?
Yeah, we got it, we installed it the other day, they brought
and take care of it, okay. At least it's up before school starts, that's the main thing, you know.
Questions, comments? Moving right along. Let's do the trailer park first, then we'll go back to the traffic ordinance. That's gonna take a little bit.
So I did start the process to sell the trailer park. Last meeting, there was brief discussion about whether the board will make the minimum bid at that sale. And then we're back today to talk about that. Is the board willing to make minimum bid on those taxes?
If we make minimum bid, then we're gonna end up with it, if somebody doesn't buy it. I really don't think the town needs to be in, this is just my opinion. I don't think the town needs to be in the trailer park business.
I don't disagree with you, but what's your recommendation, Joe, and what's your logic behind your recommendation on that?
And I understand that this is an unpopular opinion, but I grew up near Detroit, so this is where this is coming from. To remove blight, which is what the trailer park is at this point, it's a very blighted area. The only way that will be taken care of is if the town of Fairhaven does it. I don't believe that somebody is going to swoop in and buy up the trailer park and then turn it into some a great living space for families and friends. It will cost money. We are moving into the budget season, and there's no guarantee that the town will come out ahead on it. At the end of the day, if the town doesn't do something, if we don't do something, nobody will do anything. And that's my logic behind it.
My question is, if the town ends up, there's a year that they can still come back and take it back, correct?
Yes, there's redemption.
So, we're gonna sit there and we're gonna eat the water bill. We're gonna eat everything that goes on up there. And even if we end up with it, how are we going to get the stuff at people out of there? We can't even move them now. So I guess I don't see the advantage. I understand where you're coming from, Joe, I really do. But I don't see the advantage of the town taking on a situation where it's gonna cost us megabucks.
So right now, we have no legal authority to remove those people. They live on somebody else's property in somebody else's trailer, or in their own trailer. As owners of that property, 1 year from tax sale, the town has the right to evict and to close the park. And it will be a process. It will be a legal process to do that. I'm not saying it will be cheap, and I'm not saying it will be easy.
What's the minimum bid?
Taxes and water are still accruing, so it'd be about 40,000, I'm guessing, once we get there.
I hear the concern about purchasing it. My question is, what's the cost to the town long term if we don't buy it and nobody buys it? Folks
Basically in the same situation right now.
That's right.
It's gonna cost the town a lot of money if we don't buy it. It's gonna cost the town a lot of money if we do buy it. The thing of it is, if no one buys that and cleans it up and gets caught up with the taxes, and keeps the water bills above board, taxes above board, it's the only way. Otherwise, we're always gonna be behind, you know, and it's gonna cost the town. It's costing the town every time someone doesn't pay their taxes. And we have an awful lot of property here in Fairhaven that is sitting there, tax exempt. It says Town of Fairhaven owned. Why are we doing that? Let's get that property back on the market, and let's get it sold, and let's get some homes on it for tax base.
We don't have a lot of home property right now, do we?
There's quite a bit.
Mr. Greeno, and he was in last week, and he asked for some information about lots, and we went into the program and searched Town of Fairhaven. There's a remarkable amount of property that, I mean, you're looking at 3 and 4 acres that's subdividable.
some places we may not want to subdivide and put homes on. Other places, I think,
Well, why don't we get all these together and advertise them?
I think we can.
If the town owns them, let's get them out there and see if somebody will buy 3 or 4 acres. I'm sure somebody will snap up 3 or 4 acres. I mean, if there's a parcel that big. I mean, I think we should get I would like to see a list of what we've got.
I think we should generate a list of everything that's the town owned. So get it above board so everybody can see it and go from there.
But getting back to the question at hand, do we make the minimum bid?
Our minimum bid is $40,000,
Is 40,000,
or there, approximately.
It will be, if the board was interested, I think a motion of saying the town of Fairhaven will make the minimum bid at tax sale. I don't have the exact number now.
and if we didn't make the minimum bid and nobody bid on it, we'd be still at a position to have to tax sale it again? And what's the cost of the tax sale? Because I'm just saying,
It can run into thousands depending on,
that's the kind of money that I'm saying, okay, I don't wanna
Redo it every.
tax sale it a second time. That's one of the things that makes me lean back, there, even though I don't wanna own the trailer park, I don't want to tax sale, pay that to tax sale a second time, because I don't see anybody bidding on it.
There's always a situation like what we had with the Greeners.
Right, we get it,
Yeah, we got lucky there.
Where they signed it
clean it
over
up, and then
and
we're
got
able
rid
to
of it.
sell it for.
Yeah.
a
We got
decent-
lucky there.
Yeah, we did. I mean, and it's just hard seeing, I understand where everybody's coming from about putting a minimum bid on it. And like Rich said, it's gonna continue, it's gonna continue cost us money. So, I suppose if you look at it, if we put a $38,000 bid on it, or whatever we had to do. And or the minimum
It's
bid.
not like we're putting money on it. It's just that we're taking it over for that money.
That money.
We don't have that.
We don't
money.
have it anyways.
That money is not coming to us.
Right.
But the only thing is, we'd have the land after a year, and then the legal people start
Mhm.
getting the people out of there.
Okay. What about, so we'd have to, if we did this and we end up with it, we'd be responsible for the water.
so from the year, so if and when you win at tax sale, that whole year of redemption, it's still the responsibility of the
Taxpayer, or landowner.
landowner, yeah.
So, like my concern is the water bills. I mean, look at what we've gone through with the water bills. And if they're still responsible for them, we're really not out, we won't be out anything because we, like he said, we're not gonna get the money anyways.
I mean, if they pay it, but if you take it and there's still a bill, then it is the town's bill, not your bill. You know what I mean?
For that reason, I've done a complete 360, but I'll make a motion that we put, the town puts a minimum, if there's no bids, the town puts a minimum bid in for the Green Mountain Water
Is there a second?
Second.
If we,
Discussion? More discussion?
if that happens, and could we subdivide that property and sell it for building homes?
Yes, so I've reached out to.
We own it.
Yeah, we own it at that point. So tax sales can be funny, so if somebody else bought it and they bought it for a whole bunch of money, the excess cash would have to go to the property owner that owns it today. If the town buys it and holds it for a year, then it's just as though we own. This is confusing, but we just own it at that point, so yes, you could subdivide it.
It just automatically turns over to the town.
Yeah, it's the town's.
If they redeem it, they pay us, what is it,
Yeah.
8% or
It's a huge amount of money.
10? All the money that
It's all done.
that's owed on it plus the 8%. We get the 8%, that's what we get to keep.
Right.
But, is that the right number, 8%?
I don't know if it's 8%.
But it's a percentage.
But it's a
12%.
12%? Okay.
But if they were to redeem it though, they'd have to pay all the back bills on it.
Yes.
Yep, redemption, they'd have to pay everything.
Yeah.
So have we had any more discussion with the state as to what they're gonna do with this?
I talked to
the young lady at the state today, in fact, and she was setting up another meeting with the nonprofits, and then you should be getting something, Jay, in the town. They did finally pay. They sent the final bit of money to the property manager, Debbie. She has yet to bring that final $500 into the town, but we've talked to him and there's been no movement, I guess is the answer.
The other concern is the tax sale for the land is for the land, not the trailers. The trailers are individually owned, and so we would have to tax sale each one of those individually.
The trailers that they own, the trailer, the company, or the White's own, would be automatically part of the sale because that's
Right,
theirs.
Right.
The only ones we wouldn't are the people that own their own trailer.
Right, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So those would not be part of the tax sale,
Right.
and they would not be part of any, so that those, if we tax sale, we would have to tax sale them individually if they owe.
As long as they're paying their taxes, no.
Well, I think you just evict. I think you say, get your trailers out of here. You're on our land kind of thing.
Those trailers couldn't make it out the driveway,
No.
to be honest with you, man. It's a sad thing. I'm not casting aspersions. It's just, they've been around a long time. So, we have a motion on the floor. Any other discussion? Yes?
The motion was to offer a minimum bid, but you said a number. Do you want the number in the
I
motion?
think it should just say
I think it should be
that.
minimum bid because it's gonna be
Just- Okay.
It's
increasing
ongoing.
as time goes on.
One more question, do we actually have to put that money out? If we certainly
Yes.
would expect that from anybody else.
If the town intends to buy it, there should be the money will come out of our budget and then go into an escrow.
Where would that go? Where would we get that money?
We have a delinquent, we don't have that much right now. When we do the new budget, you could put it in there. It comes out of the delinquent tax collecting line, which we have a line for that,
How much is in there now?
$1,200.
Yeah,
It's short money. We don't usually buy these.
that's what I'm saying, and so that's $40,000 is 2 cents on the tax rate. So, be aware of that. Everybody,
But my question,
If we don't do it this
I don't,
time.
this is a rock and a hard
Because
place, I get it, I mean, I know.
If I had to use money when I'd try to use, I wouldn't put on tax rate. We'd have some other discussions and maybe take some of the ARPA money or whatever and use it to, or something.
All right. All right, we've talked more than I thought we would.
Mhm.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
aye,
Those opposed? Unanimous.
Unanimous. Okay.
If that doesn't have Lillian hanging us, I don't know what will.
I'm sure we'll.
Yeah, there will be concerned citizens from
yeah.
whatever she is. Okay, traffic ordinance discussion.
This ordinance pretty well covers everything you can talk about. I mean, other than, a couple intersections where people are talking about, even all the way through this, it says you gotta be 25 feet from an intersection. I think it's 25 feet, I think it says, right? An intersection. How much farther back do you want somebody?
Yeah, I think that's sufficient.
260 feet.
Yeah, I do too. I read through it twice, and the speed limits sound logical, other than where we talked about 4th Street, maybe dropping it to 25, and trying to get it through Main Street again at 25.
Well, that was what I was gonna mention. My thoughts were that we have a 25-mile speed limit on Pine Street, Mechanic Street, but not North Main Street, which is where the grade school kids are.
Right. Well, if the light's flashing, it's gotta be
Flash is
25.
25.
Oh, okay,
If the
yeah,
lights flashing at the school, it's 25 miles an hour.
When school's in session, it's 25.
that's true,
That's the way I read it, right?
yeah, you're right,
That's what it
you're
says.
right,
Yeah.
you're right.
And would that be something to consider, like, say, from Apple Tree, Carnarvon down to Washington, to have the same system, that when school's in session, lights flash 25 miles an hour, so we're consistent with what we do at the grade school?
We'd have to have flashing lights on both ends of the street. To tell them that when the lights came on, like Aaron was saying, when the light at the school come on, those other lights would have to come on at the same time. So they'd know, I mean, I don't think it's a bad idea, even if you started up by, Allen Street, you know, with a
We're gonna
light.
have, with the junior high up there, I believe we're gonna have a lot more foot traffic of our 7th and 8th graders walking to the high school than we've ever had, and new pavement on 4th Street, I think we gotta do something with 25 miles.
Well,
an
I
hour.
think that through there it would be, because it's, listen, at 2:45 in the afternoon till 4:30, that place is a zoo. I mean, it's bad. But that would have to be voted on. Right?
Wouldn't we have to, the process, if we do something like that, don't we have to warn some kind of meeting, because there's a change for other people to talk about? And there's a process we follow.
Why did we have to vote on the other 25 when it was voted on?
We did the same thing,
We,
we did that. We went
Oh, we
down-
put it on the vote.
Yeah,
We put it on,
It was
okay.
we went through that whole process.
Right,
A
okay.
couple of meetings and all that good stuff, yeah.
So, right now, we could say, have a motion to do 25 miles an hour up 4th Street, or wherever else we wanted to do it, and then we'd have to wait a certain amount of time to enforce it. And then if we didn't have we'd have a public meeting, or a public hearing. And then if there was no complaints, it would go into effect in 60 days, right?
Yes.
I mean, I'd like to think that part of that, before we'd come out and actually say, let's change it, I don't know if anyone's had any discussions with the high school to say, so I don't want you to come back and say, no, we don't want it 25. I don't envision that they will, but I'd like to make sure and talk to them.
Personally, I'd like to see a stoplight at the end of Mechanic Street.
Just so I fully understand, is the issue 30 miles an hour, or is the issue people doing 40 and more of an enforcement piece?
Yeah.
Because
Yes.
I don't know if changing the speed limit will rectify that situation. If folks are going to choose to go 40 still.
This is why I say it about Main Street when they brought it up for vote before. There's not a big difference between 25 and 30. Most of the people are driving 40, and this is the problem. They're driving too fast.
I think human nature is, at least this human, if it says 25, I may go 30,
You're gonna go 30.
but I
And
won't
that's
go
all-
40.
Exactly.
Like on the interstate, it says 70 and everybody's doing 85.
I think people do that, I just think, so that's my answer to that.
Again, I have to agree with him too, because even if you drop it at 25, they're still gonna do 35 or 40.
We're still gonna have to enforce.
Well, I think our presence right at the beginning of the school year is very important,
I think so too.
police presence, so that's
But
what I would have.
it's too, I mean, stoplight sounds pretty ridiculous, but when the buses and stuff are coming out of there, they wait and wait and wait, because there's so much traffic coming off of Pine Street, and they just can't get out. Even if there was a traffic cop there for 20 minutes, they get the buses out. And they do have to
Well,
wait. I mean, there's 14 buses, there'll be even more than that this year.
Why can't that happen?
Well, that's what I'm saying. We have an SRO out there.
We have plenty of traffic. We have plenty of.
The SRO could
Why couldn't the SRO
be
get
on
on?
down there, yeah, that's not a bad
That
idea.
would be an issue for
Once
us.
again, that's something we gotta get in front of the school, the school.
I'd want to get some input from them. It's a lot like, I know, bring up all the time, a four-way stop on Mechanic and Fourth.
Yeah.
And saying that, don't care how much traffic you got coming off Pine going that way, if it's a four-way stop, you're gonna, those buses are not, are gonna,
But then what happens is that if the stop bar is here, coming down 4th Street, the people go past the stop bar and then you
the
can't make
bus
the
can't
corner
make
with
the
the
turn.
bus.
Would have to look at saying, is the
You'd have to be
stop,
back.
would have to be back so the
Yeah.
bus can make
In order to do
the
it.
turn. I'm just trying to think of how to
But
help.
that
get the-
might help.
Help get the buses so they're not
Something like
lined
that-
up like we
something
were
like that
talking
might
about.
help.
But
It also may slow people down.
I think a four-way
Kinda has
stop
to.
coming, you have to with a four-way stop, just like the one in front of Stewart's.
Most people stop at a stop.
Oh, yeah, sometimes they go through, but I think sounds like the big thing we wanna look at, but before we jump right out and change it, I think we might wanna get a little more feedback for some people that are gonna be affected by it, like the school and.
Can we get, I guess that would be you and the administration to talk and say, here's some of the things we're thinking about. And they can either run in front of their board or make,
Bus traffic is going to increase
yeah.
by at least, I would say 8 buses. 7 buses probably.
It may be a very good idea to get a traffic up there for at least to begin
Well,
with.
I think that's almost gotta,
Stopgap measure.
it's almost gotta happen at this point in time until something happens permanent.
Yeah.
Traffic cop has to be there. Have to have
And the SRO is a perfect person for that job, I would think, because they can,
That's his job.
well, they can come, the question will be who pays for that hour or 2 hours that he's there.
That's up to, it's a school traffic.
I know. It's
Well, and
town.
that's
And you'd
why I
have
get
to,
a hold.
and if that's the case, you'd have to have one of our officers done.
Yeah.
But we pay the SRO now. He works for us.
Right. Right. But it comes off.
Yeah, they
it's
pay
their
back.
dime.
I think we talk to Brooke, let her talk to her school
Yeah.
board. You get an opportunity to talk to the chief and
But
say,
let's
hey,
not-
Bill, we've got
Let's
these.
not step on this. Let's not wait. Let's
But
get going.
We can still, with school opening up, we can still proactively get some increased enforcement out there.
Yeah.
Because we know,
And-
why wait
and
for it to be a
as Bob
problem and
said-
then go try to fix it, right?
The first couple weeks of school, they gotta be there,
Yeah, so I think.
just to
that's-
slow them down.
And Bill may already be thinking about it, but I tell him, yeah, we're behind him, go. do what needs-
Are we thinking traffic cop on only Mechanic and Fourth or also on Pine? Because I know
On
Pine
Pine
is a mess
too.
too.
I
I'd
mean,
say you almost need both of them.
both of them.
It's a tough section right there.
We got a lot of traffic coming off there. I mean,
The buses come off there, they all come out.
they all come out
Yeah.
mechanic. They can't, they're not supposed to come down Pine.
We can, it's a good,
Well, it's-
we got enough manpower with part-time.
Yeah, I mean, it's a short period of time, and, you know, if they find that Pine isn't as much of a problem, they can back off that one for a while, but let's see.
Then, why don't we table this ordinance until we talk to people at the school?
Yeah.
I had a resident come in and ask about turning Liberty Street into a one-way.
I think that'd be a mess.
Coming out. Instead of, just coming towards Main Street now, so you can't bang a left in there.
Let's talk to the vendor, or the people that own.
There's some
there.
critical businesses that sit there, and I do
I bet
not
they don't.
wanna make my business owners feel they can't do business and wanna move, even though I'm sensitive to the resident who asks.
Right now, there's the trailers, a lot of tractor trailers are delivering.
Delivering
Between
things.
Pepsi, the beer trucks, the food trucks, even the one at Wooden Soldier, there's a trailer truck there now that delivers their food. And it comes in a couple times a week, so. It'd be hard, I think, to have one way.
It would, I think you're right.
That was brought up once before, somebody came in about,
I promised I would bring it up.
No, I mean,
You did.
it's a good thing to discuss, but I'd wanna, hear from, because you've got, not only the barber shop, Mr. Wilson, some Ass Eyes, Liberty Market, there's a lot of folks
Car place.
that we need to help support those businesses too, yeah.
We're gonna table this for now. I would give you my plug for a stop sign by the library. Again, think about that
Yeah,
on Route 4.
with the
On
merging
4A.
traffic coming from 4 and
Right
22A coming together.
We'd have to go to the state for that, that's a state highway.
Okay, but I mean,
No, I'm
think
just
about it.
saying, we'd have to,
Just
that
think
would
about
have to
it.
be,
I'd
I
like-
know it wasn't very popular last time I brought it up, but that never has stopped me before.
Where's that at, Bob?
in front of the library.
In front of the library on 4, so it's stopped there, right at the angle.
At that monument.
Also
tree.
where the yield is now?
Yeah, so there'd be a yield, you'd still have, it'd be ongoing traffic that way, and you'd stop in front of the library. Exactly opposite of what we do now, kind of. But, anyway.
Proposing stopping 4A traffic or 22A traffic?
4A,
4A.
yeah. Anyways,
Yeah.
it's tabled, think about it, let's move on.
Mhm.
And let's find my agenda. Okay, new business is approval and support of business grants to the state. You're on.
Yep. So this is the Regional Economic Development Grant. This is the same, and I keep bringing this up, this is the same grant that we got some cash for the brewery for. So we had we had 4 in fact, I think,
To apply.
who businesses who came in to apply. They met with the Economic Development Committee, kind of gave their spiel about why they should be moved forward to the state. The Economic Development Committee talked about it, and they chose 2 of the 4 to move forward. All of the projects were good, but this is a competitive program, so we didn't want to just throw everything at the wall. We wanted to be discerning what went up. So this year, the EDC is putting forward the Fall Mountain Wines. This is Joe and Caroline or Caroline?
Caroline. Laramie.
Caroline Laramie. They're up on Scotch Hill Road. They're asking for $15,000. And the second one is Walter Stanley from Brookside Woodworking. He's also asking for $15,000. And
That takes care of what we have, right?
we're not giving the money, the state is
No,
giving
I
the money.
mean, but it's 30,000 every year, right?
No, what they can ask for up to, this is the Building Communities Grant, they can
Oh,
ask for up to
okay.
25,000.
Okay.
And it's one of those where they put up money, and so we're not using any of our grant money. What we're doing is looking for a letter of support from the select board to go with their applications. I put a letter of support from Economic Development Committee, wrote some letter of support for them as well.
I make a motion that we write a letter of support for Fall Mountain Wines and Brookside Woodworking.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any other discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So what's with the town of Fairhaven?
I didn't have time to write that yet. This would be another application for this building. I know Ms. Billowitz, most of her information was wrong. But I would be asking for support, and it would be a no match request, so the town would not be adding more money to the project.
That can be put on next meeting.
I just didn't have time to finish the project, or the application.
And the Economic Development Committee supports the town application as well. And we looked at them.
And that would
We
be-
had
What?
2 applications that applied. One was the church next door. It didn't really meet the requirements where they didn't have any money saved up for their match. And the grant wouldn't be given to anyone unless you have the monies to match. So they needed time to raise some funding.
Sounds like a separation of church and state thing too.
Well, they have some different buckets in the community grants, but even, it still requires that you gotta have some money there to put up, and that was the problem.
Okay, Cedar Grove.
I'm questioning this, there's, you know, name is. Anyways, they wanna bury their grandson. And the headstone that his stuff is on the backside of his grandfather's. And from there over, yeah, I keep being told that it's not a burial ground. Well, it's all part of the cemetery. And I don't know why we can't lot a single lot off behind that headstone and just put it in our book that it's been sold as a grave site. This lady's been trying to get her grandson buried since he got killed last year. And if she buys the lot beside him, it's gonna cost her over $1,000 to move the stone. And this way here, where it is now, if you went right directly behind it, it's a cremation, so it's not like you gotta have a whole thing, you know, and there's a lot of roots behind it from that pine tree.
Yes.
I just feel that, I don't see why we can't, you know, sell this piece of property to them.
I don't know the rule. Is the cemetery committee, who's the keeper of the rules? And so I don't know the guidelines and why and what's going on with the property, so.
What I understand, it hasn't
We are the
been,
commissioners, huh?
it hasn't been laid out yet, is what I'm understanding.
But we have a cemetery committee, right?
Yeah.
That
Well,
takes-
yeah.
But they don't, but I just didn't know if I'm always careful about stepping on some
Yeah, yeah.
toes, that inadvertently going in there. I know we have a cemetery committee that, and there's, when we had some problem with some guppies or some fish or something that were in the pond down there, didn't we started looking, well, koi fish, I think it was, but they showed some sketches and there was some areas marked off that you could use. Is this this isn't the area you're talking about? Okay, I just wanna
This
make
is
sure.
This is right up in the end of it's on a new part of the cemetery. And if you look up and look at it, the trees are here. His stone is here, right in front of that tree. And that's the lot I'm looking at. Why can't we do it to him? There's all the roots here from the tree. But there's a section right in the middle where they could put a cremation without any problem. But I'm told that we can't do that because it hasn't been laid out yet.
What would, Jay did a little lobbying this afternoon, and I see his point. What would we have to do? Is it just a matter of, pulling up, having a deed made for that particular lot? Or is there anything more complicated than that? It doesn't look like it should be a big deal.
No, and I wish I could I wish I could have helped the young lady the first time, so it doesn't look like a big deal, but I'm trying to stay within my rules. So, Vermont, this is not the town rules, these are the state rules, and this is what's really stopping us. Vermont rules are saying we cannot sell a lot unless a plat shall be made and recorded in accordance with the towns of the chapter. So that space, there's no plat for that lot. To keep it legal, we could, I guess, get somebody to come and survey out some space and make a plat. But the reason that we keep, refusing the request is because it's literally not a burial site yet.
I don't understand for the life of me how anything at Cedar Grove cannot be considered a burial site. I mean,
It just
Call
needs to
me
be,
crazy.
like Jay said, it just needs to be laid out. It just needs to say, these are the squares that you can sell.
So, plain words, and those headstones are in line, and they look like it to me in dead line. I went over there myself also and checked it out. So we got a line of headstones. Everybody's buried in front of the headstones. This gentleman wants to be buried behind the headstone, the family of the grandfather. So why, if the lots are 8 feet or 10 foot by whatever they are, why can't another line be struck, a plaque made, and it's over with?
It can be.
So
It's
what's our hold up? I don't understand.
We would have to we would have to make a plat we'd have to
The cost?
we would have to lay out the cemetery.
What's that entail? A tape measure
Yeah,
and a
but-
string?
You gotta make a plat. I'm sure it
But all
would
you'd
have
have
to
to
be
do
surveyed.
is make it out the same width as the one in front.
That's what I'm thinking.
If it's this wide, the other one's this
Whatever,
wide.
whatever depth they're required to do, stake it, put cornerstones, and section it accordingly.
I mean, the town can do that, but
Is that a $2,000, $1,000, $500? What's that?
sure. I mean, and then to think about it further down the line, I mean, let's say we do this. And we make this exception for this person. We're gonna lay this out for you. We're gonna redo our cemetery for you,
Well,
whoever this lady is.
I think
But then let's say down the road, somebody comes along and says, well, that one is mine, but I wanna be out there. So do we then lay it out more?
I think you gotta look at that, because beyond that is the pauper graves. So it must have been laid out at one point or another. I mean, it must have. It can't possibly not. It makes no sense that the town, when they made the Cedar Grove, that they didn't lay it all out. I can't buy that.
And there's also,
Have Jimmy look at that again.
The records don't show
It-
all the layout.
It doesn't make,
There's still sections that are set for future layouts. Where, like Joe's saying, we would have to have somebody come in and survey the area and lay out the whole plat and set all those sections up.
Which we can do though, if that's what the board
Are
wants.
are we at a point at Cedar Grove where
We should.
maybe we should be,
but I.
not
if you
just
put-
this one, but we should be doing
The
more?
only other aspect to that is if we just keep extending out, then we lose, this is the area we're burying in. Now we have this wide open area that people are picking and choosing.
Oh, no.
Right.
And now we're
Right.
losing.
Well,
I don't believe that.
I don't believe that either. What I'm saying is,
who cares?
you got a line of headstones. Okay? So now, let's lay out another line of headstones at a certain distance and whatever that requirement is. And instead of this line being here, it's here. So this area is all approved for future people that wanna buy lots.
And,
That's
yeah.
what I'm saying.
And where this is, I don't believe anybody wanna buy it anyways, because you're not gonna go any farther back because of the trees.
That'll be, the trees would be a border really.
And the roadway is on the other side of the trees, so they're not gonna put a roadway in.
And I also have another question. Right at that corner, just beyond where we're talking about, it looks like maybe about 10 or 15 feet. There's also a marker already. Does anybody know what that marker is for?
I'm telling you, it's the pauper graves. And they go to the woods. So it had to be laid out at some point. I mean, 900 years ago, I don't know, but it had to be. At some point, somebody designated part of that as pauper gravesite, so they just didn't. I mean, there's stones, there's slate stones there, and there's slate corner markers. You know what I'm talking about, behind that.
I believe so, yeah.
You know, so it doesn't make any sense to me that they stopped here and then went to,
We could definitely dig in some more.
yeah, I mean,
That's all we're asking. So
We're tied with, this is what we've seen laid out. And
Yeah.
we're not gonna just sell something that we are not allowed. If you guys want us to lay out the plat and make this happen, that's all you have to do is give us the word for
Yeah,
it.
well, we can do
We're
that.
just tied to what we're bound by
And what I think I'm hearing everyone say is,
do that.
we'd like to make
go for it.
we'd
Make
like
it
to
less.
make that happen. And long as it's not too overly cost restrictive,
Well,
but
ask Danny to look again. Or Jim. Jim's probably as familiar.
he's really busy.
Well, I'm just saying, as familiar with it as Danny would be.
But let's hope he gets back, it was quicker than he got back to me with my request. It's been 3 years, and I still haven't heard from him.
but I'd be open for not only if you're gonna look at that in the plat, when you look there, if you see that we're starting to get where we have to have some more plats done, Oh, let's talk about
Yeah, I
it.
mean, the other side of the road, on the other end, on
Right.
the west side.
Let's do it, let's
Something
do
must
it.
have been done there because they've been burying people on the other side of the pond.
Yeah.
So there's gotta be a layout somewhere.
Man, I don't know.
I mean, we'll dig in more, and if we need to lay it out, we'll lay it out.
Let's
That's
do
just-
that.
and you had
And
just
if
more
it's-
grades to
if-
sell.
Let's find out what, and before you spend $1 million, let us know.
You better make that number a little smaller.
Yeah.
It'd
$1
be
million,
a lot
got
less
it.
than $1 million.
Yeah, I mean, before you,
To exceed.
lay out enough for that
bury-
void,
they can
that
bury
void
your
can be put,
How much
Very-
money is each lot costing for the town charge?
$400 for a single, right?
Doubles 800?
see what you can do. Let's see if we can get that kid,
Yeah.
Sure.
get some,
And if you see the young lady, I mean, I apologize to her, but we're doing what we do.
No, you're doing the right thing of
If I see her,
holding.
I'll just tell her we're looking into it now to see if we can't do something, you know?
you know, if
I
we
know what
have,
they wanna do. I know they wanna get the young guy in the ground, that's no question.
and let's do that before winter, and let's get them satisfied somehow. Okay, moving on. The parking lot, anything, I think in your notes, there wasn't a heck of a lot of, okay.
We didn't win that Adam Street Bridge. It's
No.
just a nut I
I'll be
can't
darned.
crack, I guess.
I'll be darned.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Yeah.
That was a good grant.
I can tell you the town plan hasn't gone anyplace yet. We're meeting with a regional, the 8th, I think, no, I'm sorry, the 22nd of September.
Okay, no, they don't have the calendars.
No, they don't have the calendar. Anyways, the second meeting of our, the third Wednesday of September, and then we can move from there. They are having formatting problems over there as well, so our zoning, so you know, our zoning regulations are in about 4 different formats. So you go through it, do all the changes we've had, and then you come to a place, and it's a different format. And so what Regional's gonna do is make it all
Put
one
into
format.
one.
But they're hitting roadblocks too. It's just difficult. There's just a lot of technical crap that you wouldn't think you'd have, but we somehow have had way too many people, too many fingers in the pie. This time it will be one format and it'll be right
All the way through.
all the way through. And then the town plan. The town plan looks to me like a slam dunk. There's not a lot of extra stuff we've got to add to it. There's only a few sections that we haven't mentioned that we'll have to mention, that we haven't mentioned before, and the rest of it is pretty clean, so. Famous last words. Anything else?
I'd like to just update myself on our projects as far as park lighting and park and ride and the sidewalk project. I mean, what's our projection for getting that stuff?
So, lights in the park and the park and ride, that will go out to bid in the winter, fall, winter. Yep, and you'll see construction in the spring, summer. I mean, as lucky as I've been, you're probably looking towards summer. But those two projects are slated to be finished next year. Sidewalk projects, we're looking at 2025. We have talked with the state about that, and we're gonna team up to do some of that work as a way for cost sharing and a way to get kind of an economies of scale for engineering and things like that.
Has there been any discussion with the park lighting as far as some landscaping in there afterward? I assume they're gonna, but they should. I mean, dig a trench and then do some landscape, some topsoil and stuff. There's areas where it needs some attention.
For the park lighting, no, there's not landscaping involved. I mean, there's the landscaping for what is
For
gonna
what
be
they
involved
dug
with
up.
the lighting itself, but outside of that. They could use a little bit of attention, yes.
Good.
I thought the lighting in the park was on track for this summer.
So I tried to push it through last year, and they recommended not, they were afraid we'd get high bids. So the state just, they blew me off and said, yeah,
I'm
let's
so
just
sick
do
of the
it."
state. You know, you go for these grants and they hold them up until all the prices double before you get anything done. It's ridiculous. I mean, we're better out to do fundraising, we're better out to do coin drops and collect the money. You know, I mean, it's 3 years we've been fooling around with these lights now, or even longer than that. The parking ride, how many years have we been fooling around with that?
It takes 3 years to do these projects.
Well, then what good's a grant?
It's good,
Because
Jay,
it's-
Jesus.
But Bob, every time you get a
complain
grant,
about the state because why?
because
We're getting
everything,
free money.
everything is
Stop
being,
it.
but everything's being held up. And everything, look, our playground. We started out at $60,000 for a playground, and what did it end up, 150,000? Because we waited and waited and waited?
No.
What was the playground total?
Just under 100,000, that's what it was
Right, it
always.
still went up over 40,000, because it was 60,000 when we started that. Everything goes up.
I don't think
This
that's
building, what do we got in this building right now because of waiting around for it? How far are we over budget on this building right now?
You're not over budget at all, Jay. The information Miss Lillian Billowitz gave was completely false. She was completely wrong. And for the board to then say that back to me is wrong.
Is wrong.
Well, I'm
She
sorry.
was
I'd like
wrong
to-
and that's wrong.
I would like to know how much money we spent in this building. Every time we turn around, there's another $40,000 out of our payroll, out of our thing here for the town office.
And these projects were approved by the Board of Selectmen. We are on budget, we are on target.
Okay, that's all I'm
Say that
asking.
we're not, though, is wrong.
I'm-
That is
I'm
absolutely
asking you
what
if we were.
Billowitz said,
I'm not-
possibly
I don't even
accusing me
care-
of malfeasance
I don't even care
is
what that
wrong.
woman said, because I don't agree with anything she does. I'm asking you if we're on budget or if we're over budget. That's what I'm asking.
and I'm telling you, there were not
Okay,
overspent,
then that's
we
all
are
I
on
need,
budget.
and it's conversation. Don't have to get riled about it. I'm asking a question.
You're making the same accusation.
Yeah, exact same thing, and I tell you what, to question my honesty about something that I am doing what the town has requested, that project is
I am
more than
not
a
questioning
decade
you.
old.
I am not questioning your honesty.
USDA came in and said, we tried to get this done a decade ago. You're welcome.
The first,
These lights and this parking right out here, this is what people have wanted. 1980, people came into the Board of Selectmen and said, that's what we want to do.
that's correct.
40 years later, I come along and I get that done for the town of Fairhaven, and Miss Lillian Billowitz
Slams you.
questions my integrity. If I'm upset, you goddamn right I am, because that is not right of her.
I'm
She
questioning
is.
how
She
long it
has sued the
takes.
town 4 times. Frivolous lawsuits cost us and the state of Vermont hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Absolutely.
Her and her family owes the town $14,000 in back taxes, and she's going to come in here and question my integrity. I will not have it.
I think you want to.
I am done being the
think-
adult in the room with that woman.
I think if we was to really look at what they really owe, you have to look at what we've lost in the
I
last 7
think
years.
it's way more than 14,000, buddy.
I almost hate to weigh in here, but let me, just as long as we're talking grants, I looked at what Joe had sent out here, and we basically
get
have,
anything.
we have five projects out there. The town hall one, it was gonna be done this fall. Because we're having the whole supply chain stuff of getting the electrical stuff, and we'd be right on pace for being done, but we can't fix when we don't have the pieces. But all the money looked like it was there. It looks, to your point, it was spot on. We move on to the salt shed one. Well, I'd rather stay away. We're looking in that one right there. In all likelihood, is probably going to go south and isn't going to happen.
I think we ought to do it so.
But the park lighting, yeah, 23. I'm just the park lighting and the park and ride. We ran into, I'm in defense of Joe. We ran into the COVID thing, and then we went back ourselves and we changed at least twice the design and started the process all over again ourselves. But the good news, park lighting and parking fixing it is going to happen in '23. I feel pretty good about that. I'll probably get lynched if we don't. But yes,
So let's
I
make
think
it
I'm pretty sure that it's going to happen in '23. The downtown sidewalk, the other one, no, that's probably out there to 2025. There's so many meetings we're going to have. Everyone's going to have, including Lillian, will have an opportunity to come in and tell us whether we're right or wrong, and we will listen to that. But when you get all done, those are what we have. I thought we had an overabundance. You boil it all down, there's really 5 projects. The town hall elevator getting close to completion. The salt shed, we're probably that's going, one way or another, is probably going to, and it may just, things are so expensive right now. It's not that we're not going to do a salt shed, but we may, as a board, have to decide we just don't want to pay the outrageous prices now when we're going to wait and do a salt shed when it makes more sense. But, so that leads you back to just those are the only projects that we have.
Why didn't everybody get that list?
I was just,
It came out in the email of here are the grants, and
It was in the email.
so,
I will send it again.
so I went
If everybody had gotten it, it wouldn't be any questions asked, would there?
along with it came with the ARPA fund status that was asked at the last meeting.
We haven't got that, I haven't got that either.
That came out in,
I'll print it out and put it in everybody's.
yeah, in your mailbox, because it's, when I looked at both those and saw, we're not in bad shape.
But yours is printed out.
Well, this came in the email and I printed on my home printer
another thing I
brought
wanted
it.
to mention also, remember you and I were talking about the power on the bases of light poles and stuff? Apparently that's already in this plan, according to a previous board member. 30 amp receps for like trailer plug-ins and stuff like that.
So when you're doing concerts in the park, you
For
got-
food vendors and stuff like that. He claims it's in there. So I haven't seen it, but,
It is, yeah. It'll help all the festivals.
which was, I thought Jay had a great idea about that. And, we would have to listen to generators running, you know? So,
Sorry, jumping on yours.
Sorry.
Anything else?
So the talk of the grants and no more, to me, is a moot point to all these projects that town manager is handling right now, and I said as much as I can. If you go back through them, all of the stuff that the state lays out there, all these grant programs, are 3 to 4 years from start to completion. So if we don't keep applying, if we go to this idea of no more grants until these are done, well, we're not doing anything, we're not even applying until 2025, now we're not even gonna start any other work again with free money until 2030 plus.
yeah.
What's gonna happen when we don't have any more match money?
That's something we have to work on budgeting for.
Well,
Because it's taking state money and it's taking our money and putting a times mark next to it versus a minus every time we want to do something. All you're doing is taking your money and putting that nice multiplication number next to it. How much can this money do versus, oh, we want to do that project, well, minus that out of capital or minus that out of this other thing. I understand it's frustrating because when we're around town, we get the same questions when we're out doing work. When's this happening? Unfortunately, it's part of a state grant program. Those are written for 3+ years. The state wants to take their time to do their portion of the project, which is a lot of time.
I know.
okay.
Trailer on Grape Street. How was that allowed to be put in there?
I'm told zoning allows it.
Zoning allows it.
If you read our ordinance states, if a building burns, the next building has to be built on the same footprint. Yes, it does.
Well,
It's
what-
in the ordinance.
But it also says that any house that fits the whole area of
It meets the criteria.
it meets the criteria of
The size of the house that was originally there.
Yeah, and what, I would bet that when we had a trailer manufacturer it specifically says mobile homes, because I would bet we put it in there when we had a mobile home. There's no way to beat that. It's there, and it's, as long as it's the square footage, it's not over what was there to begin with.
From a two-story house, it's the same square footage as,
There's two different things. I questioned that 2 or 3 years ago. There's two different things that happens. Either you have to follow the exact same footprint, or you have to meet current setback requirements. And that's,
And one of the allowed permittable dwellings is a mobile home. It's there.
I was asked, and
Yeah, it's there.
I had the ordinance read to me right,
They didn't read all of it. They didn't read the other
Yeah.
part. It says it in black and white. It's
I don't agree with it either, but it's there. There was nothing I could do about it either. So,
and you answered that one. Yeah, the other thing I was looking through the payroll here. Why are we paying Jimmy Heller for Public Works Administration?
Works at the barn on Wednesdays and Fridays,
What's he do?
catching up on all the invoicing, timesheets, the cemetery work.
I don't know, I'm sorry, but I know everybody's busy, don't get me wrong. But to me, that falls under your superintendent, so I just question it, that's all. And the other thing is, up on 4th Street, why didn't they use the excavator to do that, the ditching in the side of the road instead of cutting it with a bobcat the way they did? No, they made a mess up there. The only place they did anything with the excavator was at the end of 4th Street. The rest, it's all a mess. They've left ridges that high on people's lawns. Are you going back and fix all that?
Yeah, once the asphalt's there, we'll go back and top back the topsoil, do great.
I don't know why they're using an excavator. I didn't know why they're using a backhoe or a bobcat when you got an excavator sitting there. And once again, you were told to load that bobcat when you went somewhere, and they're still running it up and down the road. So, are you gonna pay for a new set of tracks for that? That's what's gonna happen when they keep running up and down the road.
I'm gonna pay for them.
No, I'm just asking, they shouldn't be doing it. You were told not to load that bobcat on a trailer. And they're still running it up and down the road. I mean, that's expensive. Those tracks are expensive. So, gotta have, I don't know. I'll let it go for now.
Lots to digest today. That's
it gets worse.
you know, I had some thoughts, and just looking at the timesheets earlier, you know, have we looked into, or can we look into, automated time cards to save us resources on an administrative end? Just an idea to kind of put us into the 21st century and a little bit quicker with those processes. It saves time. It saves time. But with that, there comes a cost. So I would imagine we'd want to know, you know, what's out there for services, and you know what is the cost benefit to all of that. I don't want to bring it back up, but I'll bring it back up just because I'd like to give my 2 cents to it. I think anytime there's a project that puts Fairhaven forward that is just a little bit out of our reach, I'm all for the free money coming from the state via grants, even though I know their measurements and their reporting and their timetable isn't ideal. I support certainly getting that money in times that we can't put that forward ourselves. And then the last thing that was on my mind is going back to our last meeting. We had a discussion around a property off of Airport Road and investing in a grant, a $3,000 grant match. And I've thought considerably about that since our last meeting, and I think for me the hang up was simply the presentation of it. I would like the board to kind of consider, if this individual, if the property owner came forward and presented a business plan for developing homes, we look at it as a good faith grant match from the town to show that we're synergistic with his efforts in developing his land, rather than lots of questions of, gee, is $3,000 needed? Is this something that can't be obtained? Is there a struggle in some way that could potentially cause issues down the road? But I wanted to put that out there for the board to think about, and for that property owner to think about. If we had more of a business-like discussion on that, I think that would be a heck of an investment for the town.
Yeah, I think if he, like you said, if he came up with a plan, my guess is he doesn't have anything right now. He sounded like that in the paper. I didn't hear the discussion, so I'm not gonna get too deeply involved in it, but, it would be a big difference if there was, and that $3,000 may come in not so much a grant match as a, some sort of tax abatement or tax, so, there's ways to work around all that stuff, but.
That was the issue I had with this. I didn't have enough information. It sounded like somebody wanted to come and get $3,000 from the town to do a study, and that really didn't.
Yeah,
It didn't really tell me that this was going to happen.
Yeah, he sounded like he still wants to sell it. He wants to get out from under the property, and if they could find somebody that was more gung-ho about it, it'd be nice.
See, that's why I'd like to see a plan, and if it's a worthwhile project and it's a worthwhile contractor, that $3,000 shouldn't be an issue for him. And then we could tax abate him or whatever for him to make that money back. And it would be definitely a benefit to the town of Fairhaven. I mean, it would come back to us twofold.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
That's it?
That's it.
I'm good.
You want that letter? Do you have a copy of that?
I'll take it.
That's the Waterhouse letter. The possibility of Young's property is something we should look into, at least to see if he's.
Do you think any chance that maybe Munger might stay there and continue working, or you're closing the door entirely?
Say no.
He's gonna work it out of his house a little
Out of his
bit,
house,
and pretty much it.
Semi-retire and work out of his home.
But anyways, let's keep an open mind. I mean, let's just not. I mean, he's gonna try to sell as fast as he can, so
I mean, that's a pretty good piece of property. I mean, that
good
goes
piece
up-
of property. The back building doesn't look like much, but it would serve our purposes, I think. We're talking about getting into the 21st century probably a good idea. The guys came to find my shut off the other day, because I was deathly afraid it got paved over. It was right there. I mean, it was right there. They found it, they took their measurements, they did everything like that. Can we look into GPS and that stuff?
Sure.
I mean, it just doesn't make any sense that we don't.
So the GPS,
I mean, I don't know what that kind of a program costs. I'm sure there's expense in
so
it.
we looked into a few systems for both the valves and touching on the curb stop. Some of the issues come up to, not issues. GPS is still gonna only get you the best measurement I've heard is somewhere around a 3-foot circle, which isn't bad, but that's still, most of our tape measures are that close already. But it does help to say, you know, this is where we need to shoot, and then take the measurement and say, yeah, it's in the circle and it's right here, so.
It seems like we should be able to get closer.
Please.
But anyway, if we
Mr.
just,
DJ was saying, there's programs out there for all of this stuff.
Yeah.
The electronic punch card, or the time cards, work orders, mapping, all this stuff is available, but it's all.
oh, I understand it's nothing's free in this world, but it just seems like that should be a slam dunk. I mean, they did well. But they took it off. They took the measurements off. They took the measurements off my building, and I think one of the measurements was off a porch that isn't there anymore. So that screwed things up. It took them a little longer. Yeah, it took them a little longer. And GPS would be there, I would think. But anyways, the other thing I would ask the board to give Joe permission to reply to Lillian in answer by answer. I think you deserve that. And to include the legal expenses we've paid and the taxes and everything. You know, you're being questioned at every turn, and the innuendo is that you're doing something, that there's malfeasance. There isn't. And the grants you've written us, whether they happen right off or they don't, are phenomenal. And I think that this should be answered. But in a calm and cool and collected way, not like me and not like Jay and not like you. She doesn't deserve silence on this. This is, I think that it's not correct for this to happen, and she needs to be answered. But and we've done it, Joe said, we've been the adult in the room for a very long time. This is ridiculous. The organization of Fairhaven Taxpayers Concerned consists of Lillian. And I've never had anybody approach me besides Lillian from the Fairhaven Concerned Taxpayers or whatever they are. And I'm plenty sick of this. And that my problem is my Irish and Welsh temper gets going, and I want this answered. You know, I want you to take some time to answer this. With the rest of the board's permission.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
The only thing I'd add to that is,
Run it in front of the.
I would want legal to weigh in when you're done.
Legal advice.
Let's get
I agree
some
with that.
help that we don't step into something inadvertently along the way. We feel good for a few minutes, and it costs us a whole lot of hours.
Whatever happens, she'll sue us anyways.
Understood, but I'm just, that was,
Well, she's not getting a virgin.
I'm telling you, yeah, that's for sure. But I'm just sick of it, that we've got to answer these because the innuendo that she put out there today, she accused you and us of stealing money. And I'm not gonna, that's not something, somebody calls you a jerk and you don't say I'm not a jerk, then you're a jerk, So I'm sick of being the adult.
Is there any way of getting a restraining order to keep her out of the building?
No, I don't wanna
She
do
hasn't
that.
done anything.
I don't wanna do that. I don't, she's got a right to say that, but she has a right to that. But she doesn't have a right not to be answered. And I didn't wanna, all I was doing was making the situation worse. And I could see you bubbling up a little bit, so.
I think we all got going.
So, cool, calm, and collected, and yes, run it in front of the.
And I apologize for my outburst.
You can't. It's not. It's no apology necessary. I fully understand
You're
that.
human. Can I jump back? I said I didn't have anything, but then I thought, wait a minute, there's an opportunity
Yeah, go ahead.
here. We had our water and sewer bills just came out, and I've been hearing some grumbling about everything's way up and everything, and I looked at, because we did a lot of work on water and sewer. My water and sewer only went up $2.36 based on the consumption rate when you look at it here. We normally, it's just for the record to say, hey, look, normally this bill is the one when people are watering gardens, they're pressure washing their houses, your water bill, I go up by 1,000 gallons easily in this period here. But when you look at all the things we did, just a reminder that we took water went up a little bit, and I think sewer went down. And so what we saw after really fixing some major wage inequities that we had in water and sewer with this last contract is, it was about $2.36.
We get four water bills, we get 4 water bills a quarter, and I didn't see any of them any higher. Matter of fact, one of them is lower than what it was the
I know
previous
Eileen
quarter.
was saying she was getting a lot of calls with complaints, and I'm saying, hey, look,
My two
folks,
was
this is
within
gonna happen.
reason.
Even the one in my garage where I watered my garden, I didn't see a big difference in it.
I just would have been remiss if I didn't bring it up. Okay.
Thanks. Okay.
One quick question for Aaron. I know I'd have to talk to the guys at the water. Sometime could they come down and find a shut off on Carnarvon Street that goes out back to my garage? It's right up, it's by the, Academy Street, I'm
Academy
sorry.
Street.
It's right by the sidewalk, but the year it froze, I think you were down there, and we had to come down, if I can get something where I can at least put a marker, so that we're to shut it, because it freezes in the road on me when it freezes. And they hook from one side of the road to the other. And if they knew exactly where this shut off was, it'd make things a lot easier. It's not something that's gotta be done tomorrow morning, but if they could do it before winter sometime. Thank you.
Financial reports.
Make a motion to approve the payroll of $39,751.73.
Second. Questions, comments? All those in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Make a motion to approve the general warrant of $603,666.38. We had a school payment, in case you're wondering what that big,
It was 500 or something,
oh
right?
yeah, big chunk of money
Second.
All those in favor?
there. Aye.
Those opposed?
Would it do any good if you opposed it?
No, I guess not. If everybody signed them.
Yeah. And the checkbook status is $927,384.82.
That's after the school payment?
That must have been with some taxes or something, Gene.
What was the,
927 is what came out.
Oh, that's after, yeah, that number is always after payments come out.
That
Taxes
was
and
after the
payment.
payment, so we're,
So that's what I'm saying, there's $900,000 check after the school payment.
Tax has been coming in.
Okay. We have an executive session.
make a motion to go into executive session for personnel, attorney-client communication, 1 VSA 313A1.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.